Hey, this is Barbara Dunchie, and I paddleboard pretty much year round. But in the colder months, I do not want to fall in, and sitting down is kind of a good remedy for that, or kneeling is a good remedy, but the ergonomics on both of those, I don't like the way the paddle feels when I'm sitting fully down on the paddle, and if you're kneeling, that's fine, but your knees start to get a little sore. So the simplest thing was for me to put a small chair on the paddleboard, just set it on there, and that works great most of the time, except for I just recently bought a somewhat narrower paddleboard, not this one, and in the colder months the chair went over the side and it took me with it. So I decided it was time to figure out how to lash the chair down, and I wanted something really simple that didn't have a lot of weight, or and I wanted it I didn't want the chair to be able to slosh around side to side, obviously. So I decided that I would add D-rings to the board that were pretty close to where the specific chair would sit. But I wanted it to be able to have some sort of backward motion in case I wanted to sit a little further forward, a little further backward. So as long as it can slide around through my lashing, it can do that. So my lashing is Velcro that stays with the chair, and same with the other side. So it just keeps it from being able to completely go over the side. So that's how I kept it simple. I'm going to show you how I installed the D-rings in the midst of the foam mat, because I didn't want them over on the side here, because I didn't want the chair to have side to side motion and go over the side. So I had to remove some mat for this, because you can't just apply your D-rings. You can't glue them directly onto this, because this will just come off. All right, so I'm gonna show you how to do that. So I have already done this, but I'm just showing you. I took a pencil and traced around this patch. How I ended up on this spot is a little eyeballing, a lot of measuring. So you have to decide what works for you. So there's a pencil mark here now, and I'm using a retractable box knife, and at this point I can freehand it. If you're not comfortable freehanding it, so I'm just gonna go stay right in my lines, and you don't try to cut all the way through, because you don't really want to put that much downward pressure with a sharp blade on this. So you're gonna have to feel that. Or you can also take something that is harder, and I'm lining it up with my pencil mark, and I can cut around that. But I'm not gonna do it that way, because I feel pretty comfortable with freehanding the mark. So go around. And again, you don't have to cut all the way through on your first pass, because you go through once and you kind of have a nice little catch in there. It means it sort of keeps your blade aligned. So rather than power down to try to cut the initial line, do it gently and stay more in control of the finer details of staying on the line, rather than trying to get all the way through. All right, so I'm gonna stop the video and continue cutting this out, because it's just now redundant at this point. Okay, so I have cut through and down to here. I can feel the difference, like when my blade goes. I don't feel like I'm cutting through foam anymore. I can kind of feel the hardness of this texture, the actual rubber board. And the thing I brought in earlier was actually a cookie cutter that was about the right size. My initial thought was I might actually be able to cut through this stuff using the sharp end of this cookie cutter. However, it wasn't quite the right dimension for my patch, so I dispensed with that. But you almost could, or at least make your initial line. So like I said, right now I can go all the way around the circle, and I can tell that I have reached the rubber board. After I had cut around the circle with a box cutter, gently, as described before, I was taking a putty knife and prying it up, and then I was ending up cleaning it with a spoon, but I just discovered on this last round that just using this spoon to pull back from the cut was so much easier and just as effective, because I can see that I'm exposing as much down to the board past the mat. So look, in this case it's a white board that I'm doing, that this was easier, and I could just do this all the way around, not have to worry about a sharp thing. So I'm suggesting this, spooning it, and then I'll show you the last one. So there's cleanup to do, but all that was just with the spoon, and then I will be cleaning it with the spoon as well, and see how that, let's see. Yeah, it picks up a fair amount of the stuff, gets it clean enough eventually. And again, I would use alcohol and then more scrubbing. So, spoon, that's my solution to that. So yeah, all with a spoon, all this cleaning up. It's like a pulling is really effective. I did switch eventually to a little bit sharper spoon, because not all spoons are the same. And I have to say, I've done this on 3 different boards, and each board has been a little different within how much adhesive they used to put these mats on, these foam mats on. So your mileage may vary, but spoon's the way to go. Okay, so it's time to glue these on, and I have cleaned this the best that I can. I have scraped it, and I have not sanded it because it's actually kind of rough, but I feel like after having scraped it with a spoon, if this stuff isn't coming off, then it's not going to come off when I glue these together. So I think I've done due diligence. I have marked on this where the half point is, because when you put it down, you really kind of get one chance. So I have marks here and here where the side to side direction is, because I don't want my D-ring off. And I've made marks here and here and here and here. So I'm gonna line those up. I have taken alcohol and a rag, sprayed the rag, wiped this off and wiped that off and let that dry. And then I'm gonna glue them on. So I'm using HH66, and I am playing with fire because I am not going to mask this area off. So I'm gonna hold this bottle right over this and load up the brush, and be careful around my edges. I can't believe I'm doing this on camera, because that can make me rush having the camera going. And again, patience is key. So I'm trying to get a nice even coat, no blobs, because this will set up and that can create a bump that you don't want. The other ones I didn't seem too sensitive to that, because they're kind of a thick patches that I'm using. Okay, so I got a coat there. And then I'm gonna move over to the cardboard here and put this coat on. And it says a thin layer, but really that is so hard to tell what that is. So I'm just making sure I get right off the edges. And I should have set a timer, but I'm going to look at my watch as soon as I get this one finished. And then I'm going to wait 2 minutes, and then I'm going to test for tackiness. But I am just making sure I'm getting right off to the edges there. And it's really hard to tell if you've gone over a spot because I feel like it gets unglossy very quickly. Okay, let's set this up. This is why I have it on cardboard right now. And looking at my watch. So I'm gonna wait 1 minute and test this one because it's been there longer. No, it's still very glossy. And I'm gonna turn off the camera because watching paint dry, no fun. Okay, I've waited 2 minutes. I'm doing the test. Stuff's not coming off on the glove, but I feel it's tacky. Certainly feels more tacky here than this, but yeah, that's good. Okay, so now I'm going to line up my spots. And again, I'm telling myself you have one chance. Pressing it down in the center and then go back to the spoon and kind of roll out from the center. If there were air bubbles in this, I couldn't see because this is a pretty thick middle here. So, but then these edges, gonna lay them down in there with a spoon, and I have a little bit of extra goo in there, I see. Just working everything down as best I can. You know, because it's sunken down into this full well of the foam, this hole that I've dug out, it's a little harder to get to things, but just pressing it down using 2 hands. Some of that you can see, some of that you probably can't. Yeah, check your alignment, although at this point it's probably too late if you didn't get it aligned, but it looks good to me. And then what I'm going to do is take a little lid, set that on there, and set a can of beans on there. They say to masking tape this down, but since it's down in this hole, that doesn't really make sense for this situation, so can of beans. And I'm gonna let it set for hopefully 24 hours like that, or at least overnight, and then, yeah, if I have the space, I'll leave it there. All right, good luck.